What's going on, everybody? Welcome to this week's episode of the Reseller Greatness Podcast. I hope everybody out there is doing well. I hope the sales are fruitful. I hope we are thinking ahead, as we've been talking about in the last few podcasts. But this week, I want to talk about sourcing and acquiring product because, for a long time, maybe too long, sourcing has been too easy. And I don't mean it in the sense of like inventory is raining from the sky, but it's just been too convenient. And I think that the way that the tides are turning and the way that, technology is being implemented and the way that these companies are utilizing technology, that the convenience of sourcing is going to go by the wayside, making sourcing more difficult. And, for a really, really, really long time, over 20 years, they've had these dedicated establishments that voluntarily process, prep, put out items on the rack in air conditioned comfort, most of the times well lit. And when you walk to the door, you don't even have to open it. It opens by itself, and angels sing and trumpets blare, and you have Taylor Swift playing on the radio. Every thrift store has Taylor Swift playing on the radio, and they are, actively presenting you items that you can make profit on. And with the new tactics and strategies and implementations of technology and softwares, like this is going to get increasingly more difficult. And like resellers don't want to hear this, but there will come a time very, very shortly where resellers are going to have to get down and dirty in order to acquire product, and just having a thrift route and expecting the convenience of a thrift store to provide us with enough profitable items. I think that is a thing of the past. I think that when these softwares are fully utilized and capable, which they are very, very close, there's a few software out there for specific niches where you could take a picture of 100 items, you press a button, and it'll give you 100 prices, sorted high price to low price. There's a lot of softwares out there that will do that for certain categories. It's only a matter of time until there's softwares. There are some out there, they are, somewhat capable, but they will get better. Like the way that, technology and, AI and all of this stuff is just getting better and better so fast, there will be a time where every single item in the thrift store is able to be identified correctly, swiftly, and able to be sorted in a different manner. So right now, the sorting is, a few people in the back who may or may not know what they're doing. And they may have some lists, they may have some guidance from a manager, from a supervisor, from somebody in regional, and maybe somebody all the way from the top, where these are the items that we're looking for, whether it be Lululemon, whether it be your designer items, whether it be video games or sporting goods, whatever the case may be, whatever that specific region or district is looking for. And they're going to call out those items and put the other items into the store. So, in my district where I'm from in South Florida, they have really pioneered a lot of the programs that have rolled out nationwide. And the way that Goodwill works is that they're all independently owned and operated, underneath kind of like the same umbrella of a mission of, providing jobs for people with disabilities, but they're all independently owned and operated on a district by district, setting. So for us down here, they have implemented, Shop Goodwill online. They did Goodwill Blue Box that was started down here. They have a website where it's kind of like eBay, where they will list items and people can bid. And all of these work or don't work to varying degrees, but whether it works or it doesn't work to whatever degree from the Goodwill angle, that's not really our issue. But the issue is that was, $50,000 a month of merchandise that used to be on the racks, and it's not there anymore. And I do know someone who is a manager for a Goodwill over here. He used to work for me several years ago, and now he's a manager at a Goodwill over here at one of the boutiques. And his store alone they send $60,000 worth of merchandise to the online Goodwill marketplace every single month. So that's $720,000 worth of stuff per year that used to be at the thrift store in one location, not the district, not statewide, not corporate wide. One store in the district is sending out $720,000 a year to the online portion that used to be there for resellers. So there are many different ways to source. And I think that we need to evaluate this, and we need to know and understand and figure out what to do when Goodwill, Salvation Army, kind of these big chains are no longer viable, because the day will come, and the day will come sooner than later. One of the latest things that Goodwill is doing is they are selling stuff on Whatnot now. Like, there's several Goodwills that are selling stuff live on Whatnot. They have been doing it for a couple of months. They're selling right from the back room, and instead of stuff going to the racks, they're selling it on Whatnot. And they've been pretty successful with it for the last couple of months. And now even Salvation Army is doing Whatnot shows. They're going to do their first Whatnot show today at the time of this recording, which is early May. And on YouTube, these podcasts are about a month behind because they go out in the group about a month early. So, a month ago, if you're hearing this on YouTube, they're just beginning, Salvation Army, to do their own Whatnot shows. And will it be successful? Will it be fruitful? Will it be profitable? Who knows? Like, that part doesn't matter to us. What matters to us is those items are no longer in the store. They're not on the racks. And in my district here, in the Goodwills, all of the Goodwills have undergone or are undergoing massive reconstruction inside of the store to fit an additional 30% more racks, where it's good and it's bad, but like, the additional 30% more of the racks, like, it's not going to be filled with great stuff. The great stuff is going past the racks. And even if it is filled with good stuff, that trickles down and affects the bin shoppers, because a lot of districts, the stuff that goes to the bins is stuff that has already been through 5 weeks of color cycles, and then it goes to the bins. Or if they can't fit it into the store and the store is packed, it bypasses the store and it's like a raw donation straight to the bins. But if the store has an additional 30% racks, now not as much raw donations and stuff like that goes to the bins. So on their angle, and great for them, like, you will never see me be a hater. Like, I want everybody to make money. I want everyone to make the most money. Like, if Goodwill and Salvation Army, this is what they have to do to make the most money, then you will never, ever see me be a hater, because if we were in their position, we would do the same thing too. So they have to do what they have to do to make the most money that they can make. We have to do what we have to do to also make the most money that we can make. So if they're going to change their tactics, we must also change our tactics. And as the technology starts to get better, faster, and more accurate, there will be a day where every single item that comes into the donation center or into the back room gets an opportunity to get zapped by the software. And they're going to segment, this stuff goes here and this stuff can go to the store. And the stuff that goes to the store may not be the best quality stuff. And if Goodwill and Salvation Army has these softwares that can scan and tell you what's good and what's bad, resellers will also have the same opportunity. So if resellers have the opportunity to also utilize software and know the good stuff from the not good stuff, now it becomes more competitive. So I think that we have to start exploring and thinking about like unconventional ways to acquire product, because like once upon a time, like media, we're talking CDs, DVDs, books, like it wasn't the same genre or niche as it is today. But media, DVD, software, and books, CDs, things like that, that was really the first domino to fall in terms of being affected by technology. And when they started using technology on that, you know, you can read a barcode, tells you exactly how much it's going to sell for. You can scan the front and it tells you exactly how much it's going to sell for. All the way to the point where, we've all seen people at Goodwill or people at the bins where they have their little, PDA in their pocket with the entire Amazon catalog downloaded. They have a zapper. They're just zapping, and every single time they hear a beep, the beep indicates that this is an item that meets their metric. They put it in the cart. So they zap, 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 beep, take this one, beep, take this one, beep, take this one. And there will be a day where like resellers are just zapping and listening for beeps. And when we're zapping and listening for beeps, what is going to be the difference, or how are we going to stand apart, or why wouldn't other categories go the way of the media categories? And there's a lot of very large sellers who do media that purchase gaylords of products. You're talking a complete pallet, thousands of items. They put it on a tipper, they throw it on a conveyor belt. That conveyor belt zaps every single item that goes down the line, and it automatically separates what they're going to keep, what they're not going to keep. Like one day there will be a solution where you put a pallet or a gaylord of clothing onto a conveyor belt, and it's going to beep and go, this is a good item, this is not a good item. There will be a day where you put a bunch of miscellaneous items on a conveyor belt, and it's going to say, this is a good item, this is not a good item. And all of that stuff is going to trickle down and affect resellers in the way in which we are sourcing. And like the first place where we're really going to feel it is the thrift stores. And as I said, like thrift stores have been too convenient for too long. And we are going to have to go back to like really picking, really getting dirty, really making those human relationships and kind of getting the product before the thrift or circumventing the thrift. So like there is still a lot of product out there. There's a tremendous amount of product out there. All the videos that I do, you see me getting a tremendous amount of product, from thousands of items at the flea market to I just put out a video on Monday where I had 4,000 items behind me. And none of these items that I show in my videos come from the thrift. So I'm getting them before the thrift. I'm getting them outside of the thrift. I'm getting them in avenues where other people are getting them and then selling them in places that is not the thrift store. So there is opportunity. There is abundance of opportunity. The video that I just put out that had 4,000 items behind me, and I had so many items, showed so many items that I didn't even put comps. Like if people don't know how good those products were, like the amount of $100 profit items that I showed in that video is probably a world record for anyone that has ever made a YouTube video showing $100 profit items. But I didn't put comps there. So like the lack of respect that those items probably got from people because I didn't show the price is probably really high. But that was probably the most $100 profits that anybody has ever shown in the history of reselling YouTube. But none of those items were found at the thrift. Those items were found down, dirty, in the hot, in the heat, in locations that were not under air-conditioned comfort and fluorescent lights. So we are going to have to figure out strategies where we need to get product, we can acquire product, whether it's a garage sale route, but I don't want to do a garage sale route. Well, that's too bad. Whether it's going to the flea market early, or I don't want to go to the flea market early. Well, that's too bad. Whether it's, going to a rag house, I don't want to go to a rag house. Well, that's too bad. Whether it's going somewhere and meeting someone or forming a relationship or going to a warehouse or doing something, like that is going to be the reality for a lot of people as the thrift store becomes more competitive and more cutthroat because there's a lot of resellers and the product is going to start getting more slim. And as thrift stores start to realize and understand and figure out solutions that are very efficient, and begin to sort their inventory even more. Like I've been looking at a lot of stuff like in the background that has not been released yet. And the accuracy of the softwares is mind boggling. Like more and more like as we look at items that the software is identifying, like more and more, the software is proving right and we are proving wrong. Like sometimes I will see something and have a conversation, and the conversation goes, oh, I think the software made a mistake. And then like you look into it and the software didn't make a mistake. The software was correct. So like whether it was the price, whether it was an identification, whether it was, a keyword or something, like more and more and more, the software is proving to be less wrong and more right. And ChatGPT, I don't know, 6 months ago, not great at all identifying items. Today, top notch, like doesn't miss. I have put some items into ChatGPT to identify, and I tried to trick it. I can't trick it. I tried to put a fake Pokemon card into ChatGPT and trick it, and it told me that it was an error. Like it knew that it was fake, and it was a good fake. I put a 1950s New York Yankees game used jacket, like a pitcher would wear when he was in the bullpen. Couldn't trick it. Could not trick it. I put like the most obscure item that I've ever found in my life. Couldn't trick it. I put a vintage Nirvana in utero concert shirt. They're worth anywhere from $1,000 to $1,500. And I said, is this item real or fake? And it like measured the graphic size on other items that it had deemed real and compared the graphic size to the item that I put in there and submitted myself. So not only is it looking at all of these indicators, it's looking at like the measurement and placement of the graphic and seeing if that lines up with other known real examples online. So like even like the describing of items by software will be better than the description of items by humans. Like I've put things into ChatGPT where I would assess them as being like, oh, this thing's like in mint condition. And I ask it to describe the condition. Like, for example, I put a pair of shoes in there that was like almost brand new. And I asked it to describe the condition. And it told me that there was wear on the inside of the heel part, like where the foot goes. And I didn't identify that. And when I looked at the shoe, there was the teeniest, tiniest bit of wear, a little smudge of like dirt. It was wear, but like to the naked eye human, like I wasn't able to catch that. Where the even regular free chat GPT, they were able to catch that there's a little bit of wear, like a small smudge where someone enters the foot. And then on the bottom, I said, how would you describe the tread? Looked great to me. And it said that there was like a little bit of heel drag or a little bit of wear in this certain area. And I looked at it, and sure enough, like there was a little tiny bit of wear in that area. But like most resellers would, look that over and just describe it, as like perfect condition. I've put, shirts in there that look great, and it can identify, a microscopic flaw on like free chat GPT. And I remember, not even a year ago, 6 months ago, the biggest argument against like software being able to identify things was like, it's not going to be able to identify a flaw. And I knew, no pun intended, that like that was flawed thinking, because I read, a year or two ago that there was this company using a large language model, which is, AI, to read the Dead Sea Scrolls, which are thousands of years old, in a different language. And they can't unroll the scroll because the scroll will get damaged. And it was able to read like every single page, like going in, and the ink has been erased because it's so old. And it was able to read what was on the paper, like 15 pages, 100 pages deep of the scroll, because the indentation of the pen that originally wrote it. So like no ink, can't unroll the scroll, and the AI or the computer is able to read it, perfectly. And if we don't think that, it can't identify a hole or a flaw or a stain. I think that that's like preposterous. Like that's going to be one of the easiest things for it to identify. And I think that, based on the items that you do sell, anything with a barcode, with the box, right, with, diagrams or schematics online is going to be the easiest for any kind of software to identify, whether from the thrift store perspective, the sourcing perspective, or the listing perspective. So if you have like a microwave in the box that has a UPC and has, a bunch of information on a sticker, the software is going to be able to figure that out with no sweat. If you have like some like rare Chinese antiquity, it's like never been online before, that's going to be a little bit more difficult for Goodwill to look at, for a reseller to look at when they're sourcing, or for the listing front for that to be more accurate when it does come to being identified. But like those items are going to be few and far between, and those items will get identified and those items will get figured out. But that's just like a couple more days past, identifying something with a barcode, a schematic, full instructions pamphlet online, words and things like that. So like no niche is safe. And I think that, as people and places that we source start to implement more of this stuff, it does provide a bigger gain to what we do, our business and our livelihood. Where if we can figure out how to get, a few steps of separation from like a corporate conglomerate whose job is to, identify product, like the couple of steps that we can get away from a corporate conglomerate whose job is to identify product and get more profit, the more steps that we can get away from that, the higher likelihood we can still get, the quote unquote good items. If we are, depending on the lowest hanging fruit on this dedicated space that is an air conditioned, constantly putting out profitable items for us, like there will become a day where that is no longer viable. And the sourcing will get harder, more challenging, more dirty, less convenient, where I've already told you guys everything that I'm doing. Like there's a reason why I'm not trying to build my wholesale business on the backs of walking into a thrift store. I'm trying to build the wholesale business where, if you guys have been listening for a while, I've been talking about this for several years. We're coming up on like 2 years of like me, dedicating time to scaling the wholesale business. And when I first started the channel, I used to talk about like 1,000 pieces a day, 2,000 pieces a day. Like now we're up to like 5,000 pieces a day. And like none of these items are collected inside of air conditioned comfort. None of them, zero of them. And, I wish I could just go to the most convenient place and get that many items, but I can't. Like I have to set up camps and hubs in multiple different places throughout the United States in order to get 5,000 pieces, which is a monumental goal every day. But like there are places that get 200,000 pounds of raw donations every single week. And when you have that many items, it's going to take time for you to implement, some sort of strategy in order to fully take advantage of every single piece that you do have, versus the back of a Goodwill that gets, a few thousand pieces per week, has several staff that they can train and get these things sorted, soon with just, a beep. They don't even have to know anything. Just scan the thing, beep, scan the thing, beep, scan the thing, beep, and you put those over here. The other ones you put over there. So like there are still places that are getting a tremendous amount of product and are not going to be the first to implement the technology that is looming and on the doorstep. So like if you are sourcing in one of the places or from one of the people that is going to be first to market in the use of technology, it should be a little bit frightening. And I pause because I like to choose my words very, very carefully. But I think it should be very concerning if your business is heavily based on a person or a place that is going to be a fast mover and first to market in implementing the technology. And if you look at Goodwill, Goodwill is probably the first to market with a lot of the technology. They have huge eBay stores. They have been using AI software for several months now inside of those eBay stores. Like, you know, like Goodwill of California, Goodwill of Atlanta, Goodwill of whoever, like they are using AI software for their eBay listings and have been for several months. Like there's already solutions, like those solutions are not terrific, but there are solutions out there that are already being used. And there are companies that are not afraid to implement these technologies into what they're doing and, you know, build a bigger online presence and a more profitable online presence. Or even if they're not profitable, like I said, if they're not profitable, it doesn't matter. That part doesn't matter. They can sustain not being profitable right now. That's fine. What matters is those items used to be on the racks and they're not on the racks anymore. That's the part that matters. And I think that part gets overlooked. Like, you know, well, like they're not making profit. That part doesn't matter. They're figuring it out. They're building out their infrastructure. Like they're not like us. Like Goodwill doesn't follow techonomics. Like, should they? Absolutely, but they don't. Like ThreadUp doesn't follow techonomics. Should they? Sure, but do they? No. They're playing a different game. They have big money behind them. They have investors. They have infrastructure. They have tax strategies in which maybe they're not looking to turn a profit today. That's fine. What is the most important for all of us little guys is that those items are not in the thrift store anymore. That's the most important part. And if they're not in the thrift store, then all of us are taking a pay cut and all of us are sourcing life gets that much more difficult. So if you have to start implementing the flea markets, then that's what you have to do. If you have to start implementing, you know, purchasing dead stock and trying to find warehouses like I've done in New York City, you guys have seen it on the video. Like I've done in California, you guys have seen it on the video. I've done it here in Florida. Like that is a strategy. That is a viable strategy. Like, but it's dirty. There's roaches, rats. It's dark. There's water on the floor. Like it's brutal. But like those people are not using technology. And the place that I went in New York City is like those warehouses that I went to are all over the country. If you remember when Arwen came down and we made the video, we went down here to Miami. We went to a warehouse. We bought a bunch of hats. That same guy, I found another guy just like him in New York. And I asked him, I said, hey, do you know this guy down here? He goes, yeah, I know that guy. Those guys are everywhere. Those guys used to do baseball card shows back in the day. Those guys used to have like little sports stores in the mall back in the day where they have, you know, metal license plate frames that say Detroit Lions, where they have a little cup that says Miami Dolphins, where they have keychains and koozies and, you know, flags and pennants and a bunch of garbage. But they had clothes too. And those clothes are still sitting in warehouses. And that stuff, due to the age of the person and due to how those people are, the reason why they still have that stuff 30 and 40 years later is because they're old school. And sourcing from old school people is a tactic that is not going to get eliminated by the usage of AI and software. They're not concerned with that. They're not concerned with that at all. They're just concerned with trying to recoup their money and cashing out and retiring and moving down to Florida or moving to Arizona. That's what they're concerned with. Because when I was talking to the guy in New York, he was like, look, if I could just get 70 cents on a dollar for this stuff for what I paid, I'd sell the whole warehouse. He has 50,000 square feet. A lot of that stuff is not worth 70 cents on a dollar. That guy's in big trouble. I went in there, bought the stuff that met my metric, bought the beautiful items that I was able to buy that you guys have seen on the video, and everything that he tried to throw at me that was not good, I left. And that guy will never institute technology to figure out if his items are good or not good. He will never do it. Never. The places where I got the 4,000 items that was sitting behind me in the video this past Monday, you saw how many $100 profit items were there. You saw how many $50 profit items were there. If there was 4,000 items behind me, even at $50 on average, that was $200,000 of pure top line sales sitting right behind me. 0 of those items were found inside of a thrift store and rung up at a cash register inside of a brick and mortar store. Wasn't found there. That was found in consolidation centers or rag houses, in a certain part of the country where the people who run and own them, their mission and their business policy and strategy and plan is never to get top dollar. Their mission statement is, I get 200,000 pounds of clothing. If I can make 10 cents off of each piece and make $20,000 a week, I'm good with that. Because guess what? The truck's going to come in next week with another 200,000 pounds of clothing. They're not in the game of, I need to sell one item. That's not the game that they're in. So if we can identify those people who are getting a tremendous amount of product inbound, whether they own 10,000 of those like recycling can things, whether they are, buying overstock from thrift store chains that can't fulfill it, whether, no matter how they're getting it, it's not inside of a thrift store. The donations that come into a thrift store are manageable for them to look at one by one and assess value, because they're already doing it today. They're already looking at those items one by one, and a Peter Millar is $9.99, a George shirt is $7.99, a Robert Graham is $14.99. They're already doing it. What they're going to do is do it with more accuracy and with more efficiency. That's what they're going to do. Where a rag house is not pricing items one by one, they sell items by the pound. So 1 pound will always be 1 pound. That's it. The price might go up per pound, but it's never by the piece. I'm pricing everything individually by the piece. So the people who price individually by the piece conventionally are looking for the most amount of profit per item. The people that are pricing per pound conventionally are trying to get a little bit per pound and just trying to move as many pounds as possible. And there are opportunities for shoes in these circumstances, for bicycles in these circumstances, for plush, for toys, for beach equipment, for hard goods, for electronics. Like, there are opportunities in all of these situations where you can find someone or somebody or some company that deals in by the pound, not by the piece, not maximum profit per piece. So it's not pretty, it's not glamorous, it's not convenient, but the prettiness, the glamorousness, the convenience is going to be gone, because the price is going to inch up, or those places will just segment the good ones elsewhere where they could get more profit and put the other ones somewhere else, where, like, there will be thrift stores, but the thrift store is probably just going to have garbage. All the good stuff will go online, or all the good stuff will go for maximum price, where the other kind of stuff, they still need an outlet to sell it, but the misses are going to be few and far between. And like, our job as resellers is to catch them slipping, is to have more knowledge than them, is to find items that they are underpricing or mispricing or don't respect. And, if you walk into a thrift store and 18% of items, they misprice just due to lack of knowledge or, understanding, what happens when that turns to 8%? What happens when that turns to 4%, to 2%, to 1%? And like every single item is priced to what it's worth. And, you know, as they are building out their online infrastructure, as they are building out like their whatnot shows, as they're building out like their blue boxes and their bid prices website and all of this kind of stuff, like they're building out more outlets to give their items more opportunities. If they were only brick and mortar store, you know, and that was their only face to the customer, then you absolutely, like, they have to maintain a price to be able to sell through these items because they need to put more items into the brick and mortar store. But that's not the case. Like, the case is now they're running whatnot shows of 250 items every show. Like, now they are, you know, putting more stuff online. Now they are putting more stuff on eBay. Like, some of the biggest stores on eBay are Goodwill stores. Like, some of the biggest stores on eBay are Goodwill stores. And like, I said this before, and a lot of people disagreed, but that's okay. I say a lot of stuff that a lot of people disagree with, and then it turns out correct. Like, one day, it might not be today, it might not be tomorrow, it might not even be next week, it might not even be next year, it might be 10 years from now. I don't know. But one day, and people didn't like this, one day Goodwill will be online only. One day. They will, because rent will get too high, labor will get too high, and one day Goodwill will be online only because it will be cheaper to mass process items, have a software figure everything out in terms of listing and fulfilling and shipping than it is to have a brick and mortar store. Like, one day, it might be in 20 years, I don't know, but one day Goodwill will be online only. And they'll have places where you could drop off your donations, but like a conventional thrift store, that's going to be a thing of the past one day. And as, you know, real estate goes up, that means rent goes up. And it's just a matter of time until like it's not sustainable to have a retail location, and they're better served buying 100,000 square feet, you know, in, you know, the middle of Wyoming, and have a bunch of robots filling the orders. Like, that will happen, guys. It's not going to be tomorrow, but like one day that will happen. Like, one day all the trucks go to the middle of nowhere and they're going to have robots and packing and picking. Like, it's going to happen. And they're going to work 24 hours a day. And one day, like, George shirts are going to be online. Like, it will happen. Will it be today or tomorrow? No, but like one day it will happen. And when that day comes, like, I hope we have, you know, figured out strategies and opportunities where like we've gotten down and dirty, because like the clean method of sourcing, it's, the days are numbered. And you know, you walk into a thrift store and the prices are up, forcing our margins to be smaller. And when the margins are smaller, the only way that we can make up for that is with doing more volume and have more velocity. Two things that most resellers don't want to do. Like, most resellers don't want to do more volume. Most resellers, for whatever reason, don't want to sell their items faster. I don't know why, but like, they don't. But because if they did, and like, this is proof that they don't, like, if they did, they would really focus on sell through. And like, when you talk about sell through to a lot of resellers, it's like a bad word. So like, if people really wanted to sell their items faster, they would focus on sell through. And all sell through is just a code word for how desirable is the item. That's it. Like, a lot of resellers don't care about the desirability of their items. And you know, once upon a time, like the sourcing metric used to be like, if I like this, somebody else will. I like a lot of goofy stuff that like nobody likes. So like, that's not a good metric. And like, people go like, I like frogs, like someone else would like this frog shirt. If you want to source in that method, go for it. But like, I want to source with a data-driven decision. I want to see, okay, here's the facts. Here's how many items are listed. Here's what people are buying them for. And here's how many sell. That's where I want to go. It doesn't matter if I like it or not. In most cases, I don't, but I do like the data. So like, most resellers do not want to do more volume, because more volume equals more work. And most resellers do not want to sell items faster, because if they did, they would make a data-driven decision on every single item that they purchase and ask themselves, how many people on the face of the earth actually want this item? And if it's a lot, we pick it up. If it's not, then it stays here. But people don't ask themselves that. And I talk to a lot of resellers, a lot of them, everywhere, on Instagram, on email, in the comments. And every now and then, like I'll ask people and go like, hey, when there's a software that does 100 listings in 5 minutes, what are you going to do with the rest of your time? And sometimes, like, my way of thinking is not the conventional way of thinking. Like I've come to realize that over, the 6 years of doing the group and, doing the podcast for almost 10 years or so, where I would think by default, if I can get my listings done in 10 minutes instead of 4 hours, I would spend more time getting more items, more time taking more photos, so that way I can get more listings up. But like when I ask people that, their response is usually, I'll have more time to chill, which I get it. I understand. More time to do things that you want to do that's not necessarily work. I get it. So like in terms of like doing more volume, just like, sell through is code for desirable items, like more volume is code for more work. And like most people do not want to do more work. And I get it. I understand. So like when these softwares do come out, or these solutions do come out, a lot of people are going to get done with their work faster and then go enjoy their life, which is fantastic. Maybe go to art class, maybe go to the ballet, maybe go to a concert, maybe, go throw the ball with their kid at the field. Like that's all beautiful things. And that's all things that like we should all be striving to do. And, when software does alleviate the biggest pain point in reselling, which is listing, we're going to have a decision to make. The decision is, I go to the ballet today, or, I go to the basketball court and shoot some hoops, or run a game, or, play a video game, whatever your heart desires, whatever your muse is. Or do I double down and increase my business? And I think that like there will be a separation. And I think the overwhelming majority of people are going to choose to not double down on the business, and they're going to choose to take that time and give it back to themselves. Which, in terms of technology, like if you want to be like like a purist and like hopeful for mankind and all of humanity, like technology should make our life better, make our life easier, and like give more of that time back to us, like if, in like the purest form. And like in a utopia, like that is great, but like people are still broke, man. And like if we're broke, like I haven't figured out or unlocked the work less, make more money. And like that is very popular on social media. Work less, make more money. I haven't unlocked it. I work more, make more money. I have figured that out. Transition or pivot into something else to make more money, but you're still working. Like I have been able to figure that out. But like, less listings, more money. I haven't figured that out. Like get in your car and go to your office less and make more money. Like I haven't been able to figure that out. Like imagine like if you were like a telemarketer and like, I'm going to go to the office less and make more money. I don't know how that works. It's the same thing. Like I'm going to list less items and make more money. That's directly akin to, I'm going to drive to my office less and my boss is going to pay me more. So like, I know like a lot of people, and if I had to like make a bet, like if I had to throw down a bet, I would say like 90% of people on eBay are not going to list more items when listing becomes easier. They're going to choose to take that time and put it back into something that they enjoy, which is excellent. But they're not going to make more money that way. In fact, when the listings become more saturated and more competitive, and they're listing the same amount and the prices start to drop, those people are going to make less money because they don't want to make up with it with more volume, and they don't want to make up with it with more velocity. And that's a conversation and a thought that everybody is going to have with themselves when the time does come. Instead of taking 2 hours to list your items, now they take 4 minutes. What do we do for the next 1 hour and 56 minutes? Are we done? Do we clock out? Do we utilize technology to enjoy life better? Or do we utilize technology instead of, listing 20 a day? Now we list 40 a day and we double our business and still get done in the same amount of time or less. And I think that is, we're going to see a separation when that time does come. And, a lot of resellers get into this for, the freedom, the options and opportunities to like do, a bunch of other things that was like not possible tied to an office or a 9 to 5 into a conventional setting. And a lot of resellers struggle with the like self-starting and the maintaining the schedule and the consistency. And I think like as it gets more easier, I think that some people will get more complacent, and kind of like that urge and that drive will die a little bit in a portion of the people that resell and sell online, because it's going to be too easy. It's going to be easier. And like, we've heard for a long time, like, listing takes the longest time. And like, I have trouble getting my listings up and all of that. Like that's going to shift to photos take a long time and I'm having trouble getting my photos done. Like listings are going to be done for you in a matter of moments. And that's been the biggest pain point for resellers, which is I can't be consistent because like listing is too challenging or it takes too much time or, for whatever reason. When that is eliminated, it will shift to, photos are too hard, they take too long. And for those reasons, I can't be consistent. And, for all of that, like, we can come on here and like we can share all the tips. Like I've been through it all. Like I've listed one item and sold it. I've listed hundreds of thousands of items and sold them. I have acquired millions of items and sold them. I have listed from my bedroom, had nothing. My son slept on a couch for, the first 5 years of his life. I've been broke. I've let my eBay inventory take over my entire room. I've let my eBay inventory take over my entire house. I've had storage units, multiple storage units. I used to pick my inventory in the dark because there was no light. I used to pick my inventory with sweat dropping off of my face because it was so hot. I used to handwrite all of the addresses on the envelopes. I built it all the way to have a small warehouse. I built it to 10,000 square feet. I've had employees. I've gotten to the top of the game. I'm rising to the top of other games. Told you guys exactly what I'm going to do years out and then do it. I've seen it all. And I can come on here and share my experience as like one of the best that has ever resold anything on eBay. I can share all of my experience. I can give you all of the tips, all of the tricks. I can forecast with you what exactly is going to happen. And I've been on this microphone for almost 10 years. There's not a single time you could go back and be like, that dude was wrong. Out of thousands of hours, there's not a single time where you could go back and be like, that dude was wrong. Whether it was policy, whether it was predicting the future, not a single time can you go back and be like, that dude was wrong and he didn't know what he was talking about. I have seen it all. So I can give you all of the knowledge. I could give you all of the instruction. I could give you all of the predictions, how I see it. The only thing I can't do is go to your house and get your listings up. Can't do it. I can give you everything else. top of the game in all of my categories, totally crushed it. And if you guys know me as the number one seller in those categories, ask yourself this: who was the number two? We don't know, because number two was so far behind. Number two was closer to someone who just started eBay than they were to me. And I can come on here and give you all the information, no secrets, no punches pulled, no nothing. But I cannot go to your house and get your listings up and make you consistent. I can't. I can help you the best that I can, but I can't do that. So it's going to ultimately always drop down to you, to being able to act on the information that we talk here, be actionable on what we talk about. Don't just listen to it. If you're just going to listen to it, just turn on Harry Potter. Like, it's way more entertaining than this. Turn on Harry Potter. Way more fun. The special effects are way better. This special effects, I'm not there yet in terms of like multi-million-dollar special effects. We have $0 special effects on this program because, and that's by design. I don't want a lot of bells and whistles. I'm not here to put on an impressive production. I'm just here to give you raw, factual, actionable advice. And the people that are looking for the bells and whistles and the big performance and all of that kind of stuff, those people aren't the ones that the message should be delivered to. The people that sit through and really listen and think about what a guy talks about in an empty room with not great video, which is on purpose. I can get 1080p 4K, but I don't, because the people that are impressed by that are not the people that I want to talk to. The people that I want to talk to are people that understand why the message is the way that the message is. And if we miss some people, that's okay. Not everybody is meant to go to the top, but I will try to help as many people as we possibly can. And one day, inside of the group, thankful to everybody in there that helps with, all the calls and everything that we do have. Like, we have blown through $1 billion in sales since we started the group 6 years ago. So like, the information has contributed just in the group, like not even to all of you fine folks that listen to the podcast. And I get messages all the time, and I'm very thankful about how much the videos and the podcast help. Like, I'm just talking about just the group. $1 million, $1 billion in sales collectively in the last 6 years with the information. Like, hopefully one day I can sit here and say, like, the contribution and all of the effort and time, we could attribute 100 billion in sales, and 100 billion in sales will help a lot of people. And since my mission is to help as many people as possible, that's why it's easy to come on here and just try to give you as much information. That's why it's easy to do the videos that show 1,000 items. Like, no one else on YouTube is doing that. But like, I painstakingly put the comps, like exact item, like literally the exact item. I put the comp so you guys know and understand what to go out there and look for. And when I sit here and say, like, it's gonna get tougher, it's gonna get more difficult, and we are going to have to try to figure out unconventional sourcing methods. It's not to play games. Like, I don't come on here and play games. Like, it's what we're going to have to do. And I tell you guys and show you guys exactly what I'm doing. These strategies for sourcing that I'm doing is on purpose. I don't do anything that is not purposeful. I don't do anything on accident. I don't do anything without a lot of thought. I don't make these podcasts without a lot of thought, because I know how powerful words are. And I know if I come on here and say, like, this is what I think is going to happen, I know that for some people, they heed the advice and the words are powerful. And I know that I cannot be incorrect. So when I'm talking about that, we need to find different strategies for sourcing, I really, really believe that deep down. And I really, really have considered it in a calculatable way. And you guys don't see me go to the thrift store. The thrift store is cooked, as my son would say. It's cooked. It's over. It's on the downfall. These guys are on whatnot. Like the thrift stores have jumped the shark. Can you still make money there? Yes. But the clock's ticking, man. The clock is ticking. We've only got a couple more years and the thrift store is totally toast. So take this time for the next couple of years and try to get something figured out. We need to have a line on inventory that we control. We don't control inventory that comes from the thrift store. They control us. We need to have some leverage in our sourcing. We have no leverage at the thrift store. If we leave the thrift, another customer walks in, they don't care. We need to figure out a way how we can get a line of inventory that where we have the leverage and we control it. Whether it's a flea market vendor who's getting it from somewhere else, whether it is a rag house, whether it is, a supplier, whether it's, this guy Joe down the street who has a whole barn of stuff and he's never going to run out of stock, whether you start hunting dead stock, like we need to get one step away from these places that are the most convenient. And I saw that a long time ago. I saw the writing was on the wall a long time ago. And I have made a lot of money in not only my reselling career, but in my other businesses, really being 5 to 10 years ahead. And if we can sit here and say, like, will thrift stores be the same in 5 years? I think generally, yes. I think that the trend will continue, that they are going to be more competitive and more stuff will start getting pulled out. And if you only plan to be in business like for the next 5 years, then just keep thrifting and disregard everything that we've just talked about, for the previous 55 minutes. Like, don't worry about that. But like, if you plan to be in business for more than 5 years, like, can we honestly say in 10 years that the thrifts will be exactly how they are right now? And I think the answer is no. And I think that, little by little, just like a frog in boiling water, if you turn the water straight to boil, the frog will jump out. But like if you just incrementally increase the temperature, the frog doesn't understand or realize, and they'll just sit in there and they'll cook to death. Like, don't be a reseller frog. Like, don't let the temperature turn so slowly that like you don't know the temperature is turning. And like that's what's happening right now. Like the temperature is turning and we have to realize that. And it's turning because of the softwares, of the technology, of the AI, it getting smarter, it getting better, it getting more convenient, and it getting more streamlined and more correct. And, if you just look back a year ago, no one was even using Chat GPT a year ago. And like now we're talking about it being the biggest threat to reselling and the biggest threat to like pretty much the majority of industries in the world. Like I went on there the other day and asked it like a bunch of like legal questions about like terms of service. And like it gave me so much information about terms of service where like I wouldn't even have to contact a lawyer anymore. Like you can go on there and ask it to be a doctor. Like there's so like pretty soon Chat GPT will be able to do your taxes if it can't do it already. Like pretty soon you'll be able to give it all the information and Chat GPT will do your taxes. Like CPAs are cooked. Like there's so many industries that are going to be cooked by Chat GPT and AI, but like we don't think it's going to impact reselling in like a humongous way. That's crazy thinking. And like reselling has been around for thousands and thousands of years, like before the Bible. But like before the Bible, they was reselling at like markets in the desert. If you reselling in the same market in the same desert, you probably ain't doing so hot today. You got to change with the times. The internet came through and revolutionized reselling. AI will come through and revolutionize reselling as well. If you think back 10 years ago to 2015, like people barely had smartphones back then. People was on Blackberries back then looking up comps. Look how much has changed in the last 10 years. And if you're still operating an eBay business as you were 10 years ago, you would be out of business. Back then, you could list anything and it would sell. List it and forget it. You can't do that no more. There is no more list and forget. You have to list correctly with pertinent, accurate, targeted keywords, with a good photo presentation that accurately displays the item, properly priced, with a great return policy, accurate item descriptions, accurate item specifics, and you actually have to have items that people want. List it and forget it. That's long gone, folks. Like, we got to change with the times. And if we don't change with the times, we get left in the dust. And are the thrifts going to change today or tomorrow? Not tremendously, but like I said, it's like a frog. If we don't see them segmenting out a bunch of stuff and that's cause for alarm, that's all right. Don't worry about that. If we don't see them setting up their own eBay sites, that's okay. Don't worry about that. If we don't see them setting up their own, wholesale, their own bid sites on their own thing, let alone their eBay stores, like if we don't see that and go, don't worry about it, that's not a cause for concern. If we don't see them selling on whatnot, don't worry about it. That's not a cause for concern. Like if we don't see them starting to use this technology to help them list items, don't worry, that's not a cause for concern. Then we're just frogs. We're all frogs sitting in a pot. The temperature's going up incrementally and we don't see it. So I think we need to put some thought, we need to put some effort, we need to put some time into trying to figure out getting one step away from the most convenient, lowest hanging fruit of sourcing, which is walking into a door that automatically opens up and having the expectation that they are willingly and voluntarily going to present us items where we can just turn a profit at ease. I hope this message finds everybody well. As always, be great. Thank you.